Today we will be talking about a revival to a classic series. I'm not personally played any of the past games, but let me go ahead and say I'm now a fan. This game is Blaster Master Zero for the Nintendo Switch and 3DS. The version I will be showing today is the Nintendo Switch version. As far as I am aware, this is a retelling of the original game with some different twists. It is a reboot to the series and you can jump into this one without missing anything. Our story starts out in the future on planet Earth. There were many wars that caused an ice age. The people of Earth had no choice but to migrate underground in order to survive. The humans, while underground, started inventing devices in order to restore the world to its former self. During this time, a meteor crashed into the Earth. Several years later, a boy named Jason Frudnick finds a frog-like creature that he's never seen before. He names the creature Fred. Yeah, a being never seen before, and he names it a normal human name. Shame on you, Jason. Shame. Fred escapes his cage, and Jason finds him jumping into a strange hole. He jumps in right after him. Once he's in the cave, he notices a tank-type vehicle named Sophia 3. He manages to hop on in and it works. Now Jason takes off after Fred, and this is where the game begins. There are a few twists and turns when he meets a certain character, but I will not dive too deep into it because it might ruin the magic of experiencing it for yourself. Just know for the art style, I really cared for the cast. They managed to make a simplistic but fun story overall. Blaster Master Zero has two very different types of gameplay within it. Ever played a Metroid game? Maybe a Metroidvania type of Castlevania? Well, that covers half the game. In the overworld of the game, you pilot Sophia 3 as you explore a 2D style platformer with a map feature. You can do the usual jump and shoot at the start, but you gain more as you go along. At the beginning, you may notice there's an enemy you can't hurt or an area that you can't reach. That is the beauty of the Metroid type formula. You will get something later on to reach these places, or kill the enemies that block your path. I won't give them all away, but you can eventually navigate the overworld with ease, and have many different beams to fire from your cannon to sub-weapons. The green bar is your health bar, and the blue one is your energy. To restore your health, pick up the green capsules scattered throughout the map or dropped by enemies. In order to use a sub-weapon, you need to use your energy. The good thing about it is it refills automatically, or you can pick up blue capsules to refill it faster. The cool thing about our tank-driving protagonist Jace is he could jump out to Sophia. You have a blaster that can damage enemies but is nowhere near as strong as Sophia itself. The main reason you will want to get out is to explore various caves hidden throughout the game. This leads to the second type of gameplay. When you enter a dungeon, it becomes a top-down shooter. You can move in any direction and each one has its own map and enemies. Your blaster can go from level 0 all the way up to level 8. When you hit any level, you can freely switch between each. Each level has its own type of property that is useful for different situations. Blaster is your starting weapon and is fairly basic. Long range is for, well, long range combat. The penetrator can bypass walls and attack enemies from the other side. Diffusion is a shotgun type spray for close range. Auto is a machine gun type of attack. Reflect brings up a shield to block bullets. Striker can hit multiple targets with lightning as long as they are close. Flame turns your gun into a flamethrower, useful for looking awesome and melting ice. But the last one is one of my favorite and least favorite parts about this game. It fires fast, shoots through walls, and can stun enemies and bosses. It is overpowered in almost every situation and you will want to always use it. There really isn't a drawback to it. You can cover a good chunk of the screen just by rapidly firing. The way the game tries to balance this is every time you get hit, you lose health and one of your levels of your blaster. You will have to re-pick up one of the red power-ups in order to level it back up. It can drop all the way to 0 if you get hit enough. The less you get hit, the more rewarded you are. People who are used to these types of games will likely not get hit and always have this ability. This only makes it where people who are not too great at this game suffer for being hit. Tons of these caves have bosses at the end of them. If you're a fan of classic boss fights, then this game's for you. I also want to bring up that you can strafe. It is something I didn't realize I could do till I finished the game. You just gotta hold R if you are using the Switch controls. Really helpful, and I wish I realized it earlier in the game. There is a multiplayer mode in this game. You can choose the option when you boot up the game, and player 2 will be a reticle on your screen. P2 will be able to shoot any enemy, but the damage is really weak compared to player 1. They can also drop power-ups if their meter gets high enough. I would compare it to the Luma in Super Mario Galaxy or Tails in the old Sonic games. You are helpful to the first player, but feel like you're not a main part of the game itself. More like a helper, and I do not see many people enjoying this aspect as much as a full co-op campaign would. Now to talk specifically about my problems with Blaster Master Zero itself. I struggle personally with the controls of Jason outside Sophia in the overworld. There are multiple times where you need to leave Sophia to fit somewhere or do something that you can't with Sophia. Ladders will be your main enemy. I never get more frustrated in the game than when I tried to grab a ladder by pressing up and Jason not grabbing on. There is fall damage and you will die by missing that ladder, for example, and you feel like you should have grabbed it. Maybe it's the control stick of the Joy-Con, but I also tried with the face button type D-pad. I can't personally test with the Pro Controller until I manage to find one. The other problem I have is the difficulty itself. I do not normally mind an easy difficulty in games, but Blaster Master Zero did not give me any trouble until I was already 3/4 of the way through the game. It picks up near the end, but most of the people that might be interested in this game are those who enjoyed the challenge of the 8-bit games of the past. Just a word of warning that I did not personally die but a handful of times in the overworld, and barely any at all in the caves or dungeons. I would have appreciated a harder difficulty mode, but there is only one option at this time. Graphically, it has a nice clean 8-bit style and is very colorful. There are many different areas, each with their own theme in both the overworld and in the caves or dungeons. My favorite looking area is the underwater caves. They have these beautiful shadows of sea creatures swimming above you as you blast your way through enemies. The music is mostly good with that chiptune style. Some songs are more catchy and fit in with the area you are in. I also want to say the game is incredibly smooth and there weren't any slowdown or frame rate drops in my playthroughs. I won't spoil how, but there are some things in the text that look way too awesome and intense for the 8-bit era to handle. I feel like I have to mention the HD rumble of the game. This is my first Switch game that uses it. Every time a boss blows up, you feel the rumble in each Joy-Con alternate and it gets really loud. There is a part of the game where a wave goes by the screen. You first feel it in the left Joy-Con. As it goes by, you feel it in both Joy-Cons and then just your right one. There's some other uses for it as well, but I will not list them all in this review alone. I love the idea of the HD rumble, and I really want to see Nintendo and other developers use it in the future. To sum things up, the story took me about 7 hours to finish. 9 hours to 100% the game and get the best ending. There's some small replay value when you beat it, but I will not spoil it in the review. It might add some extra hours to your total playtime. Blaster Master Zero is a great game, and I will buy a sequel if they release one in the future. As I said before, I am now a fan of the series. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more Nintendo Switch reviews.